finest metal detectors available anywhere. This video will describe the basic functions of Garrett's finest, the Grand Master Hunter. But before we talk about the new detector, let's meet the Grand Master Hunter himself, Charles Garrett.
Hello, I'm Charles Garrett. I want to congratulate you. Whether you're the owner of a Grand Master detector like the one I'm using, or considering the purchase of one, you can take my word for it that you've chosen the finest treasure hunting instrument ever manufactured. This video will tell you a lot about this computerized metal detector, and we'll meet later in my office. Right now, though, I'm doing some treasure hunting of my own.
Before we begin assembly of the Grand Master Hunter, let me call your attention to this owner's manual. It's filled with information about the detector and printed in pocket size so that you can take it with you into the field. First, empty the box and check all parts for any possible shipping damage. Then we'll begin assembling it. Remember that no tools are required. Hand pressure will be sufficient for all tightening. Put the two washers in the end of the lower stem and attach the search coil. Next, adjust the two stems to the desired length. The second set of holes from the bottom are generally used. Now insert the upper stem into the detector housing. It's supposed to be a snug fit here, but never use any kind of lubricant on your detector. It will only attract dirt and grit. On some models, you may need to install spring clips inside the stems. Wrap the cable from the search coil snugly around the stem with the first turn over the top. Always handle search coil cables carefully and be on guard against bending or kinking them. Insert the cable connector into the housing connector and rotate the collar clockwise until it's connected securely. Because the Grand Master Hunter comes equipped with 6 C-cell batteries, you're ready to go treasure hunting. Ready to hunt, you ask? Don't I need to know more about the detector, you may wonder? Well, the Grand Master Hunter is so simple to operate that the push of a single touchpad is all that's required. In fact, the owner's manual recommends that you use this fine new detector in the starter phase for the first 10 hours. Oh yes, you should make certain that the 2 discrimination control knobs are dialed to the initial setting arrows. Now, let's hunt. Those 2 tones mean that the Grand Master Hunter is ready to look for treasure. You may want to regulate your sound level. You should just barely hear it, like this, while you're hunting. Then when you locate a target, the sound will increase, like that. Use these plus and minus touchpads located above and below audio threshold on the side panel to regulate your audio threshold. For best results, set the audio to the lowest level you can hear. Found something there? Well, then try to locate the target more precisely by scanning back and forth to determine where the signals are the loudest. Whenever you find something, study the indications on your meter and try to identify your target before you retrieve it. We'll talk more about this meter in a minute. With controls at the initial settings, your Grandmaster is programmed not to respond to most junk items. quick, sharp sound like that probably indicates junk. It wasn't like the clear, strong signal of a coin. But go ahead and dig up some of these junk targets and remember just how they registered on your meter. Remember, too, that in the starter phase, the detector is programmed to hunt for coins. Large junk items, like an aluminum can, may give you a good signal. This is normal. But here's a trick to prevent needless digging. Raise the coil a foot or so high, and if the sound holds, you found something a lot bigger than a coin. Press this touchpad to turn your detector off. All battery power is disconnected. After just a few hours of operating in this starter phase, you'll be well on your way to becoming a real pro with a Grand Master Hunter. Now, let's study all its controls and their functions. You've used the on-off touchpads. Let's learn about the other three. This pad serves two purposes. When pressed and released, it places the detector in its all-metal mode. There are numerous situations in which you will want to search in this mode. For example, you'll want to use the all-metal mode when hunting for gold nuggets or money catches. Remember, however, that your Grandmaster always begins operating in the discriminate or coin hunting mode when the on touchpad is pressed. When this pad is pressed and held, the Grandmaster's unique fast track function is activated. Go ahead and begin scanning in a normal manner. In just a few sweeps of the coil, ground balance is automatically achieved. Release the pad when this sound tells you the detector is ground balanced. Your Grandmaster will now continue to make adjustments automatically that will maintain ground balance no matter how soil conditions may change. Touching this pad takes the detector from the all-metal mode back into the discriminate mode. Remember that your detector always begins operating in the discriminate mode whenever you turn it on. Do you recall how you tried to pinpoint your targets in the starter phase? Well, there's a more precise way. And you do it by pressing and holding this pad. Let's pinpoint a target electronically. When the sound is loudest, the target is beneath the center of your search coil. Release the touchpad and your meter will indicate the depth of coin-sized targets. This one is 3 inches deep as measured from the bottom of the search coil. Depth reading is automatically calibrated no matter what size crossfire search coil is used. After you release the touchpad, your depth reading will be held for about 3 seconds. Since we're already looking at the meter, let's try to learn a little more about it. Battery check at the bottom is activated every time the on pad is pressed. Battery condition is satisfactory when the needle swings clearly into the battery section, like this. Now, if you're using NiCads, the battery check should look like this as the needle swings into the NiCad section. When your needle will swing only up to 50 or 55 in a battery check, it's time to replace batteries. We discussed the depth reading a moment ago. Remember that this is for coin-sized targets only. Large or very deep objects may not be accurately measured or identified by the scale above. This scale also gives probable identification based on the conductivity of your target. Coins will respond consistently based on their metallic alloy. This scale should be used in association with the target identification band just above, which indicates all targets, even the ones which produce no audible sound. This 0 to 100 scale at the top of the meter probably won't be important to a lot of you. It measures ground mineralization and can be important in manual ground balance. As you gain experience, you'll also get target information from it based on conductivity of the metal detected. Let's look at the side of the detector now and learn about these controls. We made certain earlier that these discrimination controls were set at the initial arrows, didn't we? But they can be regulated to eliminate specific types of metal junk in the area where you're hunting. Rotate the ferrous knob on the left to prevent the detector from responding to bottle caps, iron, foil, and similar metals. All objects on the control to the left of the pointer will not be detected audibly. Objects to the right will be detected and announced with an audible sound. Rotate the knob on the right to eliminate audible responses to aluminum pull tabs, screw tops, and other objects of non-ferrous metal. Once again, all objects to the right of the pointer will be announced with an audible sound. Next are 3 sets of touch pads. The pair on the extreme left regulate detection depth. Regulate, you may be exclaiming. What do you mean, regulate? I want my Grandmaster to detect as deeply as possible. Well, so do the engineers who designed this detector. Let's go out in the field where I can explain what we mean. Well, what do you know? That coin's right where we buried it for the video. Now, let's push either of the 2 depth touch pads to see at what percentage of the depth capability we're operating. The reading will show on the 1 to 100 scale of your meter, where it tells us we're at 70. Let's take it to 100 and see what happens. I'll push the pad while you watch the meter and listen to the target sound. You can hear how soil mineralization will affect the detector when we try to detect too deeply. What these touch pads permit us to do is regulate the detector to achieve the maximum depth possible in relation to existing conditions. These conditions can be governed by the atmosphere as well as ground minerals. This next set of pads enables you to regulate the audio to the pitch or tone you prefer. Listen. Talked about regulating your audio threshold. Mr. Garrett recommends that you always operate the instrument at a minimum level of sound, which will increase sharply when a target is encountered. When headphones are used by plugging them in this jack, you'll probably need to lower your threshold level, since the sound is more audible through headphones. Let me add here, however, that Mr. Garrett and all his engineers strongly recommend that you always use headphones. Always leave the rubber plug in place when headphones for some reason are not being used. These 3 controls determine just what kind of sound you will hear when you encounter a target. Press and release to set your audio mode. Let's see just what sounds are available. We'll try standard first. All accepted targets produce the same audible response. When bilevel is pressed, you get 2 distinctly different audio responses. First, let's try an acceptable non-ferrous target such as a silver quarter. Now, a gold ring, which responds as a ferrous target. Finally, we have the distinctive Garrett bell tone, which we call the sound of money. First, we'll use the gold ring for a ferrous sound. And for the sound of money, we'll pass our silver quarter across the coil. 3 other functions are available by using the touch pads in the center of the side panel. They permit manual ground balance, volume control, and manual threshold regulation, or tuning, as it is sometimes called. These are highly specialized functions that you will seldom, if ever, need. To bring any of them into play, it is necessary to hold down the all-metal touchpad. We suggest that you study pages 36 and 37 of your owner's manual. Remember that these secondary functions should be used only when your experience tells you they are needed. Still another control function is one you may also never use, but then again it could be very important to you. Slide back the battery cover to expose these 4 switches. Now, only the inner 2 are operable. The switches on the outside are reserved for future use. The 2 functioning switches let you select from 4 frequencies on which to operate your Grand Master. Flip one or both of the 2 rocker switches in the middle to change the frequency on which your Grand Master is operating. When will this be necessary? Let's go back into the field to learn. Suppose you're hunting like this, and another Grand Master hunter is nearby. If they're on the same frequency, they will talk to each other, and your audio will sound like this. When one of you changes operating frequency, your sound will return to normal. Outside interference can also cause a warble sound such as this, which you can probably stop by changing frequencies. This frequency adjustment will not result in any loss of sensitivity or depth. You can find treasure with the Grand Master Hunter on any frequency. Now let's talk about your detector's batteries for a moment. You already know how to check their condition by pressing your on touchpad. But how do you change them? Remove the cover, turn your detector over, and catch the battery pack as it falls out. Depress the 4 latches on the pack and remove its top to gain access to the batteries. When you're putting in new batteries, make certain they're inserted properly. You'll have absolutely no problem in replacing the battery pack. It will only go in one way, and that's the right way. A NiCad pack is also available for your Grand Master. Complete recharging instructions can be found in your owner's manual. That pretty well sums up all you'll need to know about the controls on the Grand Master Hunter. After you operate in the starter phase for a few hours, what you've learned from this video should give you a head start on the road to mastering this wonderful detector. Before we report back to Charles Garrett, though, let's try to learn just a little more about the Grand Master. You'll remember that your detector always operates in the discriminate mode whenever you turn it on. This is the normal coin hunting mode, the one you'll probably use when searching beaches, parks, or playgrounds. In the discriminate mode, you can set these dual discrimination controls that let you accept and reject targets in both the ferrous and non-ferrous ranges. Learn as much as you can about how these controls can help you find treasure. Study your owner's manual, but more importantly, you must practice. Practice and practice some more in the field. While we're out here, let me show you something about the all-metal mode. You activate it anytime you press and release this touchpad. You'll want to hunt in the all-metal mode to get the greatest depth, such as when searching for big catches or deep relics. Remember, though, that your detector will indicate every target in this mode. No discrimination is necessary. Use of the meter will give some indication of what kind of metal has been detected and can eliminate needless digging on shallow targets. Meter identification is less reliable on deep targets. You'll also use the all-metal mode for electronic prospecting. While searching in the gold fields, you may find yourself working over highly mineralized soil. It's here that you can use one of those secondary functions we talked about. At this Garrett outdoor test facility, we have some of that highly mineralized ground. Let's walk over it to where we can show you what manual ground balancing is all about. Listen to the sounds these minerals are giving us before the detector is ground balanced. Now, we'll show you how to manually ground balance the instrument should you have a need. Manual ground balancing is carefully explained in your owner's manual, but let me show you how it's done. Remember that to use one of the secondary functions, you must press and continue to hold the all-metal touchpad like this. Now, let's raise and lower the coil. And since the sounds are growing louder, hold down the all-metal pad and try to ground balance the detector manually by pressing this minus touchpad. Looks like we held it too long. So press the plus pad until sound reaches the proper level. Let me emphasize that the fast track and ground track automatic ground balancing will almost always be satisfactory for your Grand Master Hunter. Use manual ground balancing only when you're certain that it is required. Let's wrap up this discussion of the Grand Master Hunter by discussing the search coils that are available for it. There's the 8.5-inch crossfire coil with which your detector came equipped. This is the most popular size coil for coin hunters and for general searching over parks, playgrounds, and beaches. It provides excellent depth and good scanning width. But there's a smaller coil that many coin hunters find especially valuable. We call it the Super Sniper. It's used for tight places where a larger coil won't fit, or for areas with large amounts of metal trash. Remember, a detector reports to you on all metal targets beneath its search coil. Since this coil is smaller, it detects fewer targets at a time. The Super Sniper is also widely used by electronic prospectors for finding nuggets. There's a larger crossfire coil as well, with a diameter of 12.5 inches. This larger coil is used for those big, deep targets you normally encounter in cache and relic hunting. It will also detect coins and other small objects at greater depths than your 8-inch coil. Many coin hunters switch to this larger coil when they get a faint signal with the coil they're normally using. Finally, we have the Bloodhound. This is an attachment that multiplies the depth to which your Grandmaster can detect objects that are larger than a fruit jar. Our Bloodhound is the easiest of all the 2-box coils to use, since you simply attach it to your Grandmaster. No special adjustments are necessary. Simply turn the detector on and begin searching deeper than you ever dreamed. And there you have a pretty complete introduction to the Grand Master Hunter, the world's finest metal detector. Let's join Charles Garrett in his office now for a final word.
Isn't the Grand Master truly a